and welcome. Thank you for joining me today in my garage. We are going to start up the Mini. It's been a while, embarrassingly long while, since it came back from Olympus 6 months ago a while, which is way too long for the car to sit without being started. Anyway, the battery was flat, so I put it on the charger last night. Hopefully it's good. I don't really trust this battery very much, but I got no other choice. So we'll see if it starts up. If it does, I want to clean this thing off, even though it was freezing cold, because it's now officially November in Montana. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. I can see my breath outside. So after we do that, and assuming the car fully functions and everything, we're going to go over, kind of just all over, what is a intro rally build. You know, something front wheel drive, something you can build in a backyard shed. Let's just go over what all is involved in that. All right, let's get this started. Enough talk. That's a good start. Let's let her warm up. Before we head out, I just want to ask that you click that like and subscribe button down below. Helps me out a lot. Also, check out hmpspeed.com. We have a new shirt. It's our Colin McRae shirt. When in doubt, flat out. I really like this shirt. I couldn't wait to get my sample in so I could see that it all worked out. I think it did. You should check it out. I think y'all really like it. Let's go. Let's get this cleaned up. And we're back here in the garage. I actually kind of wanted to do this segment outside, but after washing the car, it started raining. So we're back in the garage doing this. Car ran good. I'm happy. So let's go over what a kind of a introductory rally car is for anybody who's just starting out, probably on a budget. What can you look at to see in your car? What do you need? And just what's kind of nice to have. Now, obviously, your car will probably vary from this. I drive a Mini Cooper. It's a pain in the ass. If you want something easier, look at Ford Fiestas, Honda Fit. There's more options out there that are a lot easier. But two-wheel drive is probably where you're starting, and more than likely, front-wheel drive. Let's start at the front here. Let's open up the hood. This right here is actually a great example of something you're going to need. You're going to need hood pins. These are arrow catches. You can go with basic hood pins. You don't need to go fancy like this, but it's an option. I'm going to try and remember to put in the description down below links to various different parts here if I can find a link for it. If it's something I actually bought and not something I had to make. But yeah, check that out. Go through the list if anything interests you. So here's the first thing you're going to notice with a kind of beginner car. It looks very stock, and that's because it is. Built engines are expensive to build in the first place and then expensive to maintain. So to get around that, you just go with stock ECU, stock engine. Depending on your vehicle, you may have to do some bulletproofing on things that are prone to breaking, but that depends on what you decide to drive. One thing you will notice under the hood that is kind of different, right here, these are remote reservoirs for the front struts. So I have Rigers in here. There are much more budget-friendly options that I would highly recommend if this is a beginner car for you. But rally suspension is extremely important. So I don't have any covers on right now, but you can see it is a coilover. There's a ton of adjustment on it. Most rally suspension you get will give you the ability to lift the vehicle at least a little bit. Honestly, it depends what you need for if you want to lift it at all. Especially on the Minis, some things hang low, so lifting is important. But yeah, you'll see everything stock. Oh, we'll get at this button. This goes to the battery kill switch. We'll go over that when I do the interior. All right, let's close her up because there's really nothing fancy under here. Oh, something you will notice here is stickers. Whichever organization, like American Rally Association, whichever organization you're with, they will require some sort of sticker package. You can usually get that through them. There's other companies that offer to make these. I highly recommend the other companies. And then in addition to that, when you actually get to the event, there's going to be event-specific stickers that you're going to have to throw on. For instance, last one I was at, I have the Auto Week. There was a Subaru parts one I had to put on, which was kind of ironic on the Mini, but oh well. Some more required stickers, fire extinguisher and kill switch. Again, we'll go over those on the interior portion of this. You'll have your number, you'll have co-driver and driver names. Whoever sits on that side is the name that shows up on top. On the back side here, we have a couple different things. For one, this right here is a tow hook. You will be required to have one. That I actually had fun and made it out of a wrench. I got the idea from a friend of mine's wife. Her car had that and I really liked it, so I stole the idea. These right here are just kind of a quick way to lock the hood or the hatch in place. See, it opens now, partially because I don't have enough room here. But yeah, you get the idea. Now you'll notice here on every corner there have been mud flaps. That is required. If I remember right, the rule is has to be on the rear and drive wheels. So for most cars that means you just have to run mud flaps on all wheels, but if you're running rear wheel drive, you can get away with just on the back. I don't think it really makes much of a difference why you wouldn't have those, so whatever. Now let's look at tires. I'm gonna insert some footage from the rear tire because you can actually see the tread pattern easier. But rally tires are very important. They're not like your truck tires or mud tires. For one, they're smaller. You can actually get them in a size suitable for a car. They have that heavy tread pattern. They're very good for when you have that lateral motion, and they have extremely thick sidewalls, which makes them a pain to mount. Good luck if you just get some ones that are a pain and take a ton of pressure. Hopefully your tire shop is understanding. But yeah, they are extremely important. The ones I'm running here are honestly way too wide for this car. I'd rather have like 175, but this is what I have, 195s. In addition to the wheels, you may find that you want to go with some long studs or something, because normally this uses lug studs instead of a stud and a lug nut. So I converted that because it is way easier to change a tire with this style. Highly recommend it if you have a European vehicle. Now underneath the car is extremely important because you're going to be hitting rocks on accident. There's going to be gravel spray. There's going to be a lot of abuse to the underside of the car. At a absolute bare minimum, you need a skid plate. There's aluminum out there. I'm probably going to change over to steel. Mine has taken a hell of a beating, as you can see. It needs to be replaced. So yeah, I'm probably going to wind up with steel, but to each their own. Now on the rest of the underside, what I highly, extremely recommend is some sort of underbody protection. I made mine out of HDPE plastic. I think that's what it's called. It's very flexible. It wears very slowly. It works great. You want at least 1/8 of an inch thick. Mine is 3/16. You get to decide what's best for you. 3/16 was what I could easily get a hold of here, and I got a good price on it. So I went for that. You will need to have something protecting your fuel tank. Mine extends all the way back and does that job. You're gonna have to see what's best for you and your car. Hopefully it's not too difficult. And the gravel spray is very real on how abrasive it is. As you can see here is the mount for like jack stands, and it's made out of plastic on this, and yeah, you can see how eaten away it is. I need to replace it, come up with something better, but it's a pretty good example that gravel is extremely abrasive. And then I actually have for my rear struts additional protection. These are some brackets with some aluminum plates, because on a Mini the rear strut attaches to the trailing arm really low, so it's very highly likely to break, by hitting a rock or something. And then just gravel spray eats away at the strut. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Now, something you may want to consider, depending on the rallying you plan to do, is a light bar. As you can see, I do not have one, just the regular headlights. You need a light bar if you're going to do night stages. There's lots of good options out there. There's lots of cheap options out there. Decide what's best for you. I bought a cheap LED one for when eventually I do need it. We'll see how it works. I still have to build it. Now, as we transition to the inside of the car, something that you'll see here, that's a roof vent. Extremely handy. I would highly recommend it. They're cheap. They're dirt cheap. This is like a two-way hingeless vent. You can find them for like semi trucks, something like that. What this does is it allows air to come in here, not just to help cool you and your co-driver off, but to keep positive air pressure inside the car. That positive air pressure will help keep dust from building up inside, which could actually prevent you from being able to see. This one, it's controlled on the inside here by just this little knob. Simple as that. All right, we're into the back of the car. What do I carry? Obviously a spare tire. Extremely important. You're going over really rough roads. Eventually you're gonna have a flat, so you're gonna need a spare. Now, rally tires are directional, so this puts you in a bit of a bind. You can carry one tire and just hope that if you do have a flat, it's the correct side, and if not, well, it's still better than a flat. You can carry two tires, which is a lot heavier, so you add that extra weight to the car. I think there's one, I think Cooper Tire actually makes bidirectional, so that would be a really good option. Probably for the next tires, I'm gonna do that. But for right now, these are the tires I have. I chose the route of one tire, and it's still better than a flat. Now, you need a first aid kit. It's required in the rules, and it's not just like one you go down and buy at Walmart or CVS or whatever. There are requirements on what it has. Read the rule book so you know what yours needs. There's different rally supply places that can hook you up with everything you need, but just in case, read the rules. In addition to that first aid kit, you also need a spill kit. Again, there are specifics in the rule book on what you need to have, so look into that. You'll see my toolbox here. In here I have a scissor jack. Obviously, if you need a flat, you need to be able to pick corner of the car up. So have just a cheap scissor jack. I have an attachment for my impact gun. I've tested it. It works. It will kill the scissor jack after a couple tries, so keep that in mind. So that also leads me to what else is in here. I normally keep my impact gun in here. I keep a full socket set, a set of wrenches. You have to have a tow strap that is required, so I keep that in there as well. And then like a screwdriver and knife, things like that. You never know. There's also some safety triangles I have strapped to part of the cage, and also a shovel. The shovel isn't normally required by rallies, but Olympus it is, so that's why it's there. The triangles, there's 2 back here, 1 under the co-driver's seat, because there's a requirement that one has to be within reach of the driver or co-driver. And then my washer fluid reservoir is actually back here as well. In the Mini, it's in a really crappy spot that I could see getting broken pretty easy. So I mounted it back here and used the tubing that went to the rear wiper so I could plumb everything together. Definitely recommend that if your reservoir is in just a bad spot. Mine was right, what was it? It was below the driver's side headlight, right in front of the tire. I could see taking a corner bat or something and that getting smacked and breaking. So this prevents that, and you want washer, or I think you're actually required to be able to spray washer fluid. But even if it isn't, you want to. When mud gets there, you need to wash it off. And just as a side note, you'll see not much is strapped down in here right now. That's not normal for a rally. You do have to have everything strapped down. I use ratchet straps. There's even specific ones you can get for the spare tire. Definitely look into those. I really should. I'm just using regular ratchet straps now. I use 2 of them. As we get ready to climb into the driver's seat, is this right here. This is the roll cage. There are specific requirements. You cannot have a bolt-in cage. You actually have to have certain tube thicknesses. There's a lot of rules for your roll cage. Have a professional do it if you have never done a cage before. Is extremely important, and your life depends on it. This one in particular was done over at Dirtfish. They did a great job on it. I'm really happy. Unfortunately, with the new rules, there are some additions that have to be made to it now. But if you're getting a new cage, just make sure it's up to spec on the current rule book for the sanctioning body that you're going to be rallying under. Now, after that, you will notice the seat here. It is a proper FIA racing seat. Yes, that is required. Read the rule book on like expirations and stuff. I can't quite remember that in my head, but just keep it in mind. This one in particular is an OMP HTER. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit more than your basic FIA seat, but it's extremely comfortable. I have driven in a weekend over 1,600 miles in it, and it was comfortable. I can honestly say that. So I can't put my support behind this seat enough. Also, as a benefit, you get these little halos, wings. I can't remember what they're called. Not required, but again, recommended, because you're going to be going sideways in the car around turns. If you are coming in a little hot on a turn and you wind up going sideways into a tree, these will help that lateral neck motion. It'll help out a lot so you don't injure yourself. And also, it really doesn't get in the way of your vision at all. I don't even notice it when I'm driving. Then we have fire extinguishers. There are specific rules to that. They do have to be up to date. Look at all of those in the rule book. That bit me in the ass. I had to buy new fire extinguishers right before the before my last rally because of that. All right, let's climb in now. All right, now we're in. So first big thing is the harness. Let me get into that here. I have a 6-point harness installed. I think you can have a 5-point. I can't remember if that's okay in the rule books now. Do your research. I'd just go with a 6-point to be safe anyway. I personally went with a Sparco harness. Doesn't matter. That's up to you as long as it meets the proper specs for your sanctioning body. All right, now looking forward here. here is steering wheel. All right, so I have one that is removable. Honestly, it's just an NRG little adapter. I really like it, and it's solidly built. One of the few surprising things from that company. Yeah, it works great. I have a hub adapter. You'll just have to see what fits for your car. Driven steering wheel, it's a little bit on the cheaper side for a proper race wheel, but it works great. I absolutely love it. It's comfortable. Yeah, I recommend it. Got my shifter here. You can leave the stock shifter in. I'm working with Coolerworks, Coolerworks Canada. They helped me out with getting this in the car, and I love it. I always wanted one of these types of shifters, so when I was able to work with them, I was very, very happy. They were absolutely great, and this made a huge difference in the car. We got my switch panel here. If you have your fan on a switch, you can use that. I'm still using OEM setup there. But right now I have it for mostly co-driver controls, the USB power, stuff like that. Up here, horn button. You do have to have a working horn. I did not want to try and deal with doing a horn up here. And plus this is nice because the co-driver can reach it too. Some people will put a floor button, so only the co-driver handles the horn. That's up to you. You'll see all the padding up here on top. That is requirement too, and no, you can't use a pool noodle. There is a requirement, SFI 45.1. It's a pretty thick, hard foam, way harder than you'll find in a pool noodle. Now, you'll notice a lot of wires in the car still. Proper setup, yeah, you'll remove all those extra harnesses and stuff, and honestly, I hate wiring. I hate screwing stuff up with it. Sometimes it's just easier to leave it. That was my choice. You may decide to do it the right way, and good for you if you do. One day I will. Not today. Also within reach here is this. It's a window breaker. I still have glass side windows. You have to have a glass front windshield. And this is needed for that. If you need to get out of the car and because you're upside down or whatever, this is handy, and also has a belt cutter on that side. And then I have my stock OEM handbrake. I do not have a hydraulic handbrake, as much as I would absolutely love one, like right there. I'm still trying to figure that out, and honestly, I hate messing with brakes. A lot of cars use a drum in the rear for the handbrake. Not the minis. The cable actually clamps the caliper. The drums I know will heat up pretty bad and fade really bad if you use the stock one. It depends on what car you have and what you're comfortable with. Some people hardly use the handbrake. I found myself at Olympus using it a surprising amount. All right, let's get to the kill switch, because it's still within reach of the driver. That's a requirement, driver and co-driver and outside. That's what's real handy about the other button that was under the hood, is you could mount that on the outside, so an emergency worker could press that to kill power to the entire car. I don't know where I want to put it that they could access it, but I didn't want to lose the button, so yeah, I put it where it is. So you will notice it is marked here. Right now, power is killed to the vehicle. This is a solid state kill switch. Really nice. I highly recommend it. I think CarTech is the one who makes this. Yeah, it's a little spendy, but it works really well. And you do have to have a spark-proof kill switch. So this just works extremely well. And the great thing, so I press that, car comes to life, floor lights turn on. Can now press the horn. Nice thing, when you press this to kill everything, the way it's wired up is it actually will kill the ECU first, then kill the battery. It's still, quick, but It just helps add that little extra protection. Anyway, let's shut this off because it eats battery. Speaking of eating battery, these solid state ones do use a small amount of power even when everything's off. Keep that in mind, like when you let the car sit for 6 months, you will need to charge the battery. All right, now let's look at the co-driver's toys. I have kind of an in-between setup. If you work with a specific co-driver, ask them what they would like. They'll give you probably a way different answer than what I have set up, but this is what I have, so just keep that in mind. First thing, I have a rally trip computer. It is a GeoTrip, so it's running GPS. I've had a hell of a time getting that right. So as a backup, right here I have a phone holder. There are apps. Rally Trip Meter is one. Works really well. Highly recommend it. Everybody has a smartphone. Download an app. Now you have a rally computer. And plus, get a time calculator on there. Your co-driver is good to go. One thing to keep in mind with using a phone is if you are doing a rally where it is hot out, your phone may overheat. Keep that in mind. I haven't had that issue yet, but I have heard of people having that issue. Up here is the comm switch. So, on off. I have power cut right now, so there's nothing. Co-driver, driver volumes. Don't want that to fall out. That's my GoPro mount, because you got to have that sick in-car footage. But yeah, this is a pretty basic intercom. There's ones even cheaper than this, and then there are ones way more expensive. Just have to decide what works for you. The cable's really short on it. It's that curled one there. So I have to use an extension. Luckily, TerraTrip is really nice. They use a standard 1/4 inch, I think it's like TRS jack. So you can buy those cables anywhere. You can make them yourself. Super easy. One downside, be careful that they're insulated enough. I get some weird feedback on mine, and I'm pretty sure it's from that cable. Still working on that, but yeah, it works. It does the job well enough. Over here is a map light. It is not hooked up yet, but I just have it clamped to the roll cage. But down there's the controller going to nowhere. I haven't done a night rally, so it hasn't been necessary, but I've started that prep work. So that's all I'm doing. That was a pretty cheap one. I think I bought it off of Amazon. It does both red and white light. Again, I'm just trying to do this for whatever the co-driver would prefer. I work with a very new co-driver, so he doesn't really know what he wants yet, so I'm giving him options. And plus, if I ever work with a different co-driver, I hope that they can just step in and have what they need. You do want some storage. Right now I have is that little netted pouch on the door. I saw that you can get, they're made for like cyclists, little pouches that go in the frame of the bike. I've seen some people use that in the cage. I want to get one of those for the co-driver, just to store pens, pencils, notebooks, whatever. I want to give them those options, and plus they're really lightweight, so who cares? Now the next thing I can't really demo here because it's not installed, but I do have water bladders here for both the driver and co-driver so they can get something to drink easily. The pack just mounts behind the seats. You can see those right here. It's just a standard Camelback. I feed it through the harness hole, and I have a little Velcro thing wrapped around the harness so it can kind of not get lost. Highly recommend something like that. You need water, your co-driver needs water. I mean, he's yelling through the whole stage. He needs water, or she needs water, I'm sorry. I think of my co-driver, and my co-driver's a guy. So anyway, that about covers it all. It's an overview of my car and what you can kind of expect is needed in a beginner rally car. Sky's the limit on things you can add, but that's all up to you and your budget. I hope this helps you with any projects you have going forward. Once again, I ask that you click that like and subscribe button. Visit hmpspeed.com. I would really appreciate that. Whenever you buy something, it helps support this channel. So thank you. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you out on stage.